Why do you do this to me?
I'm plus sizing on a plane. Of course I can't fit the trade deal now. I'm plus sizing on a plane. Of course I'm going to sit beside the smallest member of my family. I'm plus sizing on a plane. Of course the armrest is digging. I'm plus sizing on a plane. Of course I have to shimmy down the aisle sideways. I'm plus sizing on a plane. Of course I need a seatbelt extender.
Wow. Clint Russell's girlfriend really waves him down when they travel together. Welcome back. Beautiful and amazing human beings. My name is Luke Rudowski here of thebestpoliticalshow.com as we have a packed house with some really awesome, incredible individuals today as we are going to be going over all the latest crazy news developing right now for the next 2 hours. So make sure to share this broadcast with your friends and family members. It is more important than ever as we're going to be discussing a lot of really important stories about the New York Times and their adoration of the deep state. Trump's properties might be seized soon. AOC goes crazy on Hunter Biden's whistleblower. There's some interesting news regarding Julian, Assange, Nickelodeon. Well, there's going to be a lot of different things that we're going to be getting into all for the next 2 hours with a very important conversation with some awesome human beings that you guys get to be a part of. And one very easy, simple way to be a part of those conversations is by also signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com. If you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for? It's quick, it's easy, and simple. And joining gives you the ability to join a secret Telegram channel. That Telegram channel allows you to call into the show as we are going to be taking callers in about an hour and a half from now. You could be that caller. You could be a part of that conversation. You could ask our guests questions right now just by simply signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com. Plus, you get a lot of other really incredible offers of value. Today's special report was a 40-plus minute video with Mr. Matt Rife about some issues that we definitely couldn't say on this particular platform. Yesterday's video was Ian's Crossland's secret workout routine. Lots of great stuff for members, including in real life meetups, which we're going to be doing and expanding here in Southern Florida. As I had this idea today, I was like, hey, last time we met, there was like 50, 60 people that came from all over. They were really cool. One guy drove from Indiana who was a member of LukeUnfiltered.com. Shouts out to that guy. Most people here were in Florida. Lots of really great people networked together. I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, okay, we kind of just sat down and just talked to each other, which was awesome. How about we do a hike? So we are organizing the first ever LukeUnfiltered.com members only hike in 3 weeks here in Southern Florida that you guys get to be a part of, all by simply signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com. And you get the ability to call into the show, as well as we will be, of course, reading your Rumble Rants, Super Chats, but we prefer you guys check out mysuperchat.com. It's our website, which actually allows your text, your Super Chats to show up on screen. And of course, we will be doing anything and everything we can when it comes to addressing your comments and concerns through, of course, supporting us through Super Chats and Rumble Rants, which we greatly appreciate very much because we are an independent media organization. We've been independent for about 20 plus years, and I wouldn't be around if it wasn't for your support, your direct involvement. And it's awesome to see you guys. It's awesome to meet up with you guys. And it's incredible to be able to share this space with you. This is as much as your broadcast as it is ours. And again, I wouldn't be here. There's so much censorship efforts. There's so many underhanded things. There's so many crazy things happening in this world. So many people in this world face so much pushback for just trying to start conversations that it's really reaching a point where your membership is more crucial than ever, and we greatly, greatly appreciate it. Joining us for today's conversation is a very special guest. It is the one and only Richard Grove. Richard, thank you so much for coming down. For the people who don't know you, who are you and how would you introduce yourself?
My name's Richard Grove, and I used to be a software executive until I saw my company ripping off people in the way that could really hurt the market. So I became a whistleblower, and that put me on a path that was like uncharted, and I had to become a trailblazer. So now I've been podcasting and educating people on these types of topics: globalism, internationalism, all the minutiae that makes these things work, the people that could be very easily named if you get down to it. So I've been podcasting since 2006. I've made documentary films, interviews. I teach people executive skills. I've had a long, interesting trip post sacrificing that multi-million-dollar career, and college didn't prepare me for the road ahead. And luckily, using some critical thinking skills, you and everybody else can like also get off that super highway to globalism.
Yeah, college is a scam. It absolutely ruins and rots a lot of people's minds. And unless you're doing, even if you're doing something, because people always say, oh, if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, well, those people, we'll get into those people later. But they also do a lot of bad stuff for society. Joining us also for this conversation is the one and only Tatiana Moroz. Tatiana, thanks for coming on. Thanks for filling in for Mr. Clint Russell. Who are you?
Happy to be here once again. My name's Tatiana Moroz. I'm a singer-songwriter and a big supporter of liberty. I've also been a Bitcoiner since 2012, and I have a marketing company. Oh, and I'm doing an event on 420 in Miami, so hopefully people will come for the halving.
A Bitcoin event.
Yes. There's a
you
Bitcoin.
You got to clarify.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a
lot of different events happening at 420.
Well, this one has nothing to do with that kind of rascally behavior. I mean, whatever people decide to do, that's up to them. But yeah, we're celebrating the halving, and we'll have some live music, and it'll be a good evening, I think.
Awesome. Robbie Mann also is in town. He's staying here at the guest room. Robbie, I've known you since Occupy Wall Street. You've been on this YouTube channel before. You've been on timcast.com. Who are you? What are you doing?
Yo, how's everyone doing? I'm Robbie Mann. I am a lover of humanity. I'm the type of guy who will go up to your dog on the street and say hello, and I will pet them. I am a creator of a movie about my mom right now, her struggles in the hospital industry. You can check that out on my Instagram. It's Robbie Mann, ROBBIEMANN. I am also into Bitcoin, but I'm also into shitcoins. That year of the halvings, one time I'm into
poop coins. Family-friendly show here, Robbie. Poop coins. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Didn't you get the list, man?
Yeah, you got the list.
Yeah.
I apologize, guys. So working and just spreading love. I'm just happy to be here.
I just want to tell the viewing audience, you thought Ian was crazy? Wait until you find out about Robbie. Steph is also in the house. Steph, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Steph We Are Change here, pushing the buttons, feeling good and ready to rumble.
All right, we're not there yet, but we still got an hour of tiptoeing around sensitive issues and topics. We still have an hour of trying to discuss the news without disobeying the authoritarian gulag overlords that are watching over us right now and just waiting for us to make any kind of mistake just so they could click that delete button. Again, censorship, especially during election years, is through the roof. And it's something that we battle here every single day with YouTube. Again, this is the first hour. It's the Kyle and Karen hour. It's the NPC hour. It's the family-friendly hour. We're just going to discuss some of the superficial stuff. An hour goes in, we go to another platform, and then we go straight down the rabbit hole, and we talk about some really fun, salacious, crazy, wild stuff that we can only discuss on other platforms because, we're living in a world where there's actual thought criminals and people being punished and imprisoned for their political expressions. That's the world that we live in. That's the world that we have to stand up for and fight back against. And the best way to do that is to, of course, promote and push independent media because the corporate media, they're usually filled with a lot of doo-doo and crap, like the New York Times that just released a very interesting opinion piece titled, quote, "It turns out the deep state is actually kind of awesome." And this is a video article that highlights 6 minutes and 11-minute short little documentary of a New York Times reporter who wasn't seen in the video going around different kind of government offices and interviewing random people and being like, look at this deep state actor. And he's interviewing a lot of interesting people, but again, the title and the headline here is grasping a lot of individual. It's gaining a lot of attention because just a couple of years ago in 2017, the New York Times had this article that says, quote, What happens when you fight a deep state that doesn't exist? Highlighting yet again another photo of Donald Trump. Donald Trump was featured prominently in the beginning of today's article by the New York Times that of course, promotes the deep state and says that they're awesome. As, of course, the corporate media will tell you anything, and now it seems like they're definitely reaching a point where the truth really doesn't matter. It's all PR. It's all propaganda, and they fooled us for so long. Now it seems like they're just kind of bragging about it and putting our nose in the crap that they laid down in front of us and just saying, yeah, who cares? We're in charge. We're going to tell you what to believe in. We're the authority figures here. Good luck, guys, because that's how we roll. How else do you guys interpret this article other than the clear kind of juxtaposition of the hypocrisy here?
We're winning. We're winning, bro. Like when you mentioned censorship didn't exist 10, 12 years ago. Like we could talk about this stuff and it wasn't reaching an audience and they didn't care. And once it starts reaching an audience, then they start to care and they start cracking down with censorship. So the whole idea of censorship comes from a standpoint of there's somebody with a monopoly of force. They're intellectually bankrupt in their arguments. And then they have to lead with censorship, which is not a good sign for their reasoning in these cases. So bringing it around, what we have is like you have a legacy of deep state, and they denied it for a long time. They denied Bilderberg for a long time. They denied all these things for a long time. So now that they're recognizing there is a deep state, that's also a win. So them censoring us is them saying we're weak and we have to censor you because we can't beat you on the field of arguments with logic and reason and evidence. And then the other aspect, admitting the deep state, that's just telling everybody that it's time for you to integrate this into the public narrative, because prior to this, it was too early. Just like when people reported on when Jim Tucker is talking about Bilderberger in the 90s, that was too early for the narrative. So they don't want that coming out into the public. So this is all signs that the information war is being permeated by facts and things that are actually swaying the battlefield. And I think that's why they're trying to ban TikTok. And I think that, IDF and other places are having problems with their public relations management. So bringing the deep state out into the open is like 70, 80 years too late. They've already done their work. They've seeded the place. They've already laid their future foundation for where they want freedom to go, which is into the trash bin. And people recognizing this and taking their power back, you're going to see reactions from the other side, like heavier censorship or admissions of things that really mattered when C. Wright Mills wrote about it in the 50s as the power elite, published by Oxford. But that's a conspiracy theory, and you might not be allowed to talk about that on YouTube.
Gut Daddy on Twitter said, quote, "Stand by for damn you for noticing phase." And there are a lot of different phases in this. And as you mentioned, it did happen with Bilderberg. As, of course, I still remember back in the day, you brought up Bilderberg and people came up to you. Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC came up to me like, "It's a conspiracy theory. You're crazy. You're insane." The corporate media was literally making arguments that it doesn't exist. And if you think it exists, it's crazy. And then they said, yeah, it exists. And then they said, oh yeah, it exists. And they just do golf. They just meet and just hang out. They don't do anything serious. They don't make any decisions, even though we had heads of intelligence agencies meeting specifically with major corporations, cutting deals together, making sure that they had no bid contracts in so many different ways. So many underhanded deals were made at Bilderberg, admittedly from their own members. At the same time, the corporate media was like, they don't do anything there. Don't worry about it. And then just even a couple years ago, they're like, yeah, they exist. Yeah, they call the shots. What are you going to do about it? I feel like there's also a very similar phase to a lot of Trump kind of Republicans, a lot of American first Republicans kind of realizing, yeah, there is a deep state. They are calling the shots here, and we don't live in a democracy like they say we do.
What percentage of people do you think are awake to that right now? Because to me, I think that, fake news has been, at least since the Ron Paul 2012 era, right? I mean, that was really, really obvious to me then. So when they started saying during the Trump time, oh, fake news, I was like, yeah, it's been faked for a while. Now we have a lot of different manipulated accounts on Twitter, right? And on these other social media platforms. So it's hard to get a real read. But who's actually reading the New York Times being like, oh, these guys are really pinnacles of journalism. I love these guys. Let's see what they have to uncover
I
today.
think a lot of the public probably does.
No,
look,
come on.
we get insulated in our friend group of people who actually are literate and comprehend things and look for evidence and artifacts in reality. If you go check the average and do a poll on the street, there's a lot of people who believe whatever they're told on TV. There's a lot of people who believe whatever they read in the Washington Post, New York Times, these sort of things, right? And it's like a coin toss. Like any given day, they could be right in an article. You actually have to pay attention and compare what they're claiming to reality on a consistent basis. Most people don't have the intellectual fortitude to do anything like that and to reason their way and adjudicate the information to come to a conclusion. So I would say most people do believe whatever the New York Times, and they don't notice the contradictions like what Luke pointed out, where they make fun of the deep state back then, but now they say it's cool. Most people don't even get that contradiction, and they don't know what the contradiction means.
I think more people are waking up, though. 'Cause
Yes.
I just came from Los Angeles, and even my friends who are far left, some of them are coming around. Like some of them are like, I'm voting for Trump. It's gotten a little bit better, but I know what you're saying. I think this is damage control for the deep state to get whatever NPCs are left and just keep them programmed as much as the best to try to hold on to their power. I mean, it's kind of like, the phrase that you remember where it says, you will own nothing and you'll be happy. Remember that phrase that came out?
Yeah, Klaus.
Yeah.
Right before he said, eats the bugs.
Now the question that
He's
you asked,
such an
Tatiana,
inspiration.
how many people are awake? How many people know that the whole facade of democracy is fake and it's really central controllers and special
20%.
interest groups are really calling the shots here? How many of those people are actually awake? I think a vast majority of them. I think.
Would you?
I think
just
there's
a percentage
yeah.
for fun. What would you say, ballpark? Like what people? I think.
Well,
like
we have to be clear
50,
here in
60
exactly
or maybe
what
semi-alive?
in what we believe. Do people believe that their vote matters?
Oh,
Do
well,
people believe
that's
that
a
they elect their
lost cause.
president? I don't think they do.
It depends on the demographics, I think, for your question.
Well, there was even mainline studies done by even prestigious institutions that were looking into, quote, democracy. What was the will of the people? What the people wanted? What were the popular referendums? And then what Congress did. And they overwhelmingly came to the conclusion that Congress wants what the special interests want that specifically pay them to do their bidding. And a lot of the things that would help a lot of people that, of course, would actually fight for their citizenry, fight for their interests, fight for this country, help the people out, are not passed, not talked about, not discussed. But when it comes to rules and regulations and all these other made-up kind of laws that they just think up out of thin air that they implement, predominantly go to the benefit of all of their friends, and it destroys a lot of people who are competing in the market that their friends are in the business with. That's why we see a lot of rich people always kind of call for more taxes, because if they're able to tax everyone else, they know that the level of competition is going to be not that high, since, of course, they're willing to pay the taxes. They're willing to pay off the regulations. They have the money to comply. Everyone else who's on the up can't. And I think this is why we have a hijacking of our government that is done by the deep state. And I think the New York Times is being kind of facetious here, especially when you watch the full 6-minute video. They highlight some kind of government bureaucratic workers that are working on trying to, hit asteroids so they don't hit the Earth. They talk to another lady that's trying to get lead out of the pipes. And they fail to understand the larger kind of bigger bureaucracy that does a lot of really underhanded things like human trafficking, drug trafficking, and some other very illicit, illegal activities, especially when it comes to overthrowing democratically elected leaders. That really does represent the deep state. That really does represent a shadowy figure of individuals that are behind the government, that are telling the government what to do and how to conduct themselves. Because presidents come and go, but a lot of the same policies remain regardless if they're Democrats or Republicans, which highlights what a lot of other world leaders have recognized, that the United States isn't run by the president of the United States. There's something else ingrained within our system that there is no accountability of, that people are too afraid to name, that the corporate media says don't even exist, but they do. And it's pretty clear that they do, especially with the way that the federal government has been conducting itself ever since they took out one of the presidents of the United States. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, it's kind of the big origin of the deep state in public vernacular, because it's there's non-elected rulers. You're lending credence to the fact that the president's not really making decisions for the country, and so in that element, who is this supranational government that does precipitate down through our state policy?
Wait, you're telling me Joe Biden's not calling the shots here? You're
No.
telling me Joe Biden's not up all day making the executive decisions
No,
as
at
the
best.
president of the United States?
Well,
you're
you can't
telling
take away
me
from Kamala's contribution.
Yeah, she's great.
That goes
she works very
back
hard.
to what you were saying earlier. Like, if anyone who believes Joe Biden is making decisions are the same people that
Yeah.
probably are believing this article.
At best, you've got Obama in his sweatpants making his third term decisions, right? And at worst, you have international entities that lobby our government and pay them off. And the relationship between we, the people voting, and the government and what they do, it's like we're kids in the back seat with the steering wheel. We're not controlling where it goes. Now, Lee Camp told me that was his joke. And so I acquiesce. I'll give credit where credit is due. We are like the children when we go to vote. So in the question of how many people believe that, like 180 million people believe that because they went and voted in the last election. I became a libertarian in 2004 because I had voted for Bush in 2000, and then I'd seen what he did with war on terror. So I heard this guy called Michael Badnarik, and he was running as a third-party candidate, and those ideas made sense. And that was the last time I voted in 2004, because even after I voted for him, I realized, like, the vote's not doing anything. You can have local accountability. So let's go back to the deep state, which is the opposite of local accountability.
You didn't vote for Ron Paul?
No, I never did.
You could write his name in too.
No, because when
I voted for Man Bear Pig one year, and I wrote him in.
The 2008 and 2012 Ron Paul, I didn't vote at all those years because I'd already seen, like, here's an ideal candidate, and there's no way voting is what gets him in. You need, like, more PR, and you need influence like they have, but you need it from a righteous place of not bribing people to do things outside the Constitution, because the deep state starts, like, it's recognized by our Congress in 1954 during the Reese Committee hearings, because they looked into the un-American activities of all these nonprofit foundations. And it's those foundations that actually work with these corporations that bribe our government and all the people in it to do things that are outside the Constitution and outside of, like, the purview of what American government's supposed to do. It's supposed to protect our rights at best.
Yeah. Now, both times that the New York Times was talking about the deep state with these latest articles, they always brought up Donald Trump. As, of course, a lot of people are now saying that Donald Trump is fighting the deep state. Well, Donald Trump definitely loves to use that kind of buzzword around. Some people accuse him of even being a part of the deep state, and that it's the deep state within the deep state battle. But it definitely does seem like he's being absolutely unfairly prosecuted, as right now we have a New York Post article that reads, Donald Trump may not pay bond and instead let Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, seize Trump Tower. This, according to insiders. We have another article here by Newsweek saying, full list of Donald Trump properties Letitia James is about to take. This is a crazy story, as, of course, Donald Trump can't secure $464 million in bond in his civil fraud case. And now it looks like the New York government will be taking his properties. This is, I think, a major attack that is absolutely unfair against the former president of the United States. It makes him a martyr. It attacks him directly, and it shows you that if anyone stands in the way of the Democratic establishment, anyone stands in the way of the Democrats who are in power right now, they're going to, of course, have that weight on the justice system pushed down in one particular angle that, of course, makes sure that you get entrenched in a lot of legal warfare, which I think is happening right now. Richard, you look at these kind of situations a lot more from the outside. What do you make of these latest attacks against Donald Trump that in one way prop him up, make him a martyr, and make everyone support him, and in another way are legitimate threats against his property, his finances, and, in my opinion, are conducting larger election interference actions, which are affecting this presidential election?
I don't think the people who are doing this are worried about interfering with the elections, because they already had a Time magazine where they admitted that they interfere with the elections, like, to keep the country safe, right? They see Trump as a threat. They want to keep us safe from Trump. They don't understand the Streisand effect. And I think if they did, a lot of the comedy on Twitter every day would just stop. Right. So I want them to not understand it, but we can all understand it. We can see what's going on. The more they attack Trump, the stronger he gets with his voter base, and the more people kind of differentiate him from Biden and his 81 million votes allegedly back in the day. So as New York gets more and more corrupt, it's always been a deep state stronghold, a globalist stronghold. And so the corruption there, I mean, has gone back years and years. I mean, look at when they put Ross Ulbricht away 10 years ago. That's Catherine Forrest in the New York Southern District of New York Court.
Yeah.
And she said in her decision that it's not because of what Ross did. It's because of his political philosophy, which was that of a young libertarian, Students for Liberty, Ron Paul, Penn State graduate, Eagle Scout, right? She said what he believes philosophically is dangerous, and to set a precedent so no one else will take these steps and try to offer an entrepreneurial solution in the marketplace, he needs to have a double life sentence plus 40 years plus $200 million or whatever the egregious made up sort of punishment is.
I was at those court proceedings, and I heard a lot of these arguments. Jared Leto was also there, very interestingly as well. But it was surreal to see Ross in court. And if you haven't heard about the Ross case, check out freeross.org. We were, of course, the first independent news organization to ever interview Lynn Ulbricht, Ross's mother, of course, who is fighting for him. Freeross.org. Check that out. Sorry, go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, so the precedent set in Ross's case were always going to be, it was always about being applied to everybody else. So in this time where you've got political prisoners in the country that's supposed to be based on freedom and nothing's been done about it, it just kept creeping in to the point where now they can do it to a sitting president. Now they can do it to a former president. I mean, the Mar-a-Lago raid versus the Biden garage raid, just compare the two. Like, that was obvious. Like, as an objective observer, the scales have been weighted artificially, and the thumb that's on the one side of the scale is an international thumb. It's not from inside our own country type of thing, which is what the deep state is. It's somebody else's hand inserted up inside America and making us do things that are much more internationalist and globalist in nature. And this has been going on since the 1950s when they had the Reese Committee hearings and they found out that the nonprofit companies were using internationalist endeavors to change the attitudes, values, behaviors, and beliefs of Americans to be more in line with communism or collectivism, which is a denial of individual human rights.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more, as of course this situation is going to be playing out in very interesting ways. As the observation is pretty clear here, Joe Biden is in major swing states right now. He was just in Arizona, where he walked off stage when he was being introduced in order to get to a baby. Yes, that's an actual real story that just happened today. And you know, Donald Trump has to face a lot of legal bills. Biden is securing hundreds of millions of dollars from all these special interest groups. Donald Trump, according to some of the media sources that always lie about him, allegedly is going around asking a lot of his friends for money. And when you look at this election, I think it's going to be a nail biter. And I think absolutely with the political prosecution of Donald Trump, he's at a huge disadvantage compared to, of course, Joe Biden, that has not just the corporate media, but large aspects of social media also behind him that are censoring stories that are, of course, not favorable to him. I want to get into a New York congresswoman as we're discussing this, and that, of course, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She recently had an interesting reaction towards Hunter Biden's whistleblower in today's hearings. The video is going viral. Before getting into that video, I wanted to tell you guys about a company that actually decided to work with us, and that, of course, is fieldofgreens.com. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. We will make sure that our producer will put their link in the comment section and also in the description, as of course this company kind of reached out and they're like, hey, do you want to do a green supplement? And I was like, no way. They're like, let us just send you some of the stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. I tried it out. I liked it. A lot of the people who were here, we have a lot of people coming and going. Ian Crossland, Seamus Cogler. Seamus was like, "Oh, my liver's feeling great already," and I really liked it. I actually talked to a medical professional about this. There's a lot of different kind of weird stuff and substances out there, but these guys are pretty legit, and we want to support companies that support independent media. These guys are doing it, and they provide you, as you can see, I use this stuff. I don't just talk trash. This stuff is almost out. They provide you 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. You could do fast food, or you could do Field of Greens, and they're actually grown organically. No pesticides, no GMOs. They're whole foods, flash frozen, so this is not even a supplement. This is whole foods. And it's a lot easier than juicing and doing all that other stuff. I have it here on my desk right now, where of course you could see me drinking it as well. I really like this stuff, and I've grown to like it automatically. I was like, no, but then I was like, wait, this stuff is pretty good. Talked to a medical professional, got the 401 about all the information here, and I'm like, Okay, cool. Let's work together. So shouts out to Field of Greens. And they're also, of course, promising that if you don't like their product for any reason, they have 100% money back guarantee that will, of course, give you your money back if you are not satisfied with the product. Use promo code Luke and get 15% off of your first order, free rush shipping. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use promo code Luke. That's promo code Luke, fieldofgreen.com. The link is also in the comment section below. Steph, you tried it.
Yeah, I tried it and I really enjoyed how easy it was to make with the water. It tastes really good. There's a bunch of different flavor options too. My favorite one is the lemonade version, and it's delicious. It has a bunch of different nutritional benefits, and it's super easy for smoothies too. So check out the different flavors and see what works for you.
Yeah, I don't like the lemonade one personally myself. I like the regular green one, and as you could see, because it's out now, the wild berry one, which I'm gonna have to ask them to send me more. So check those out. And shouts out to all the companies that are willing to put their name behind independent media, behind conversations that, of course, are important to have, especially during this crazy election year that's going to get a lot crazier, especially after we had the very tumultuous and very spicy testimony from Congress today with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez kind of freaking out against a Hunter Biden whistleblower that, of course, is Mr. Tony Bobulinski.
Is it your testimony today that you personally witnessed President Joe Biden commit a crime?
I believe the fact that he was sitting with me while I was putting together a business
Did you
deal,
witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is simple. You name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO and conspiracy.
What is the crime, sir?
You
specifically.
You asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption statutes.
Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category.
It's a category of crimes that you're then charged.
You have charges.
A long 100.
You have charges. Sir, please
name the exact statute under RICO?
Yes.
Well, it's funny. In this committee room, everyone's not here. There's over 8
All right, sir. I reclaim my
lawyers that went to law school.
Yeah, she
Embarrassment.
she definitely wasn't the most pleasant there, as she's going to bat for Joe Biden, the old Democratic guard that, of course, represents the special interests. And it's fair to say that this testimony is a part of the election kind of campaigning that she's doing for him, as the Babylon Bee has a very interesting article that reads, AOC says RICO, not a crime. He's the guy who delivers her food. That's the Babylon Bee with a great take here on the situation, as, of course, Tony Bobulinski was Hunter Biden's former business partner, came out and spoke about clear actions that were illegal by the Biden administration that violated the law, violated a lot of ethics, as they were doing business deals with a lot of foreign powers all throughout the world, especially with American enemies. This is a pretty interesting story, and yeah, that exchange was, let's just say, pretty tumultuous to say the least.
I don't think. Well, there's like, for me, watching that or listening to it, AOC shouldn't ask that question, and he shouldn't have answered it. He's not qualified to say whether or not he saw Biden commit crimes. He's qualified to say, I saw Biden take actions that could be construed as that, but it's going to be lawyers or law enforcement that actually say that's a crime, right? So she should ask, what did you see him do? And then he could say, I saw him do things, and everyone would say, oh, that's illegal. And then you'd wait for law enforcement or civil or criminal to come in and do something about it, right? In this case, she's not qualified to ask that question. I mean, you're not supposed to have lawyers in Congress because of oaths to foreign countries and stuff like that with the Bar Association. But like, you're not supposed to have necessarily waitresses in Congress either. The questions being asked to a whistleblower should not be there to like take it off to the side, right? Because asking whether or not he's qualified to say it's criminal is a whole different category. So ask him, what did he see Biden do? And then they can all, argue over whether or not that's gray area or if it's illegal, right? But that's not happening. And I don't I don't fault her. I don't expect that out of her. But I fault Bob Ulinsky for answering the question that shouldn't have been like. It's hard when you're on the stand to object to the questions, right, and be your own lawyer. But in the whistleblower realm, like my case back in the day, I listed RICO crimes that my employer was doing and a whole bunch of other things. So he's right in stating like there's a whole category of what's going on that can be listed this way. So even though he answered the question, she didn't accept the answer. And that's why it's so easy for, Babylon B to make fun of it.
Yeah, the responses here are pretty good. A lot of people are bringing up Rico Suave. They're bringing up a tweet with Elon Musk saying she's not that smart. And then this other meme here with the caption, if the USA is so great, why did someone create the USB? Now, of course, these are not real statements made by AOC here, as of course, there's absolutely a two-tier justice system, as of course, we have witnesses that are coming forward that did business with the Bidens and are coming forward with information being ignored by the FBI. And we have a very heavy-handed prosecution of Donald Trump, and in many instances for the same kind of aggressions that Joe Biden is accused of as well. As, of course, Hunter Biden, he's gone away with some really awful, curious crimes. If one of the Trump sons just did at least some of the actions that Hunter Biden did or is documented doing, you could bet your bottom dollar that they would be in jail automatically and immediately. What do you guys make? What do you think, Robbie, of this testimony? Does this absolutely make you like her more, or do you not have a flavor for the Latinas out there?
I love Latinas. I love all of good people in humanity. I just think politicians are corrupt. I mean, I think that, like you were talking about the deep state earlier, I mean, I think it's in their best interest to protect their puppet in charge and cover for him and make sure that stories don't get out showing the corruption. Intuitively, it feels like Biden is pretty corrupt. I haven't done the research, and you probably know a lot more than me, the evidence about it. But if you had to, ask me, I would say that, there's something really fishy about the dealings there with the Ukraine and Hunter. We obviously know that they covered it up during the last election. We know that. That's fact, right? So, it's a little fishy, if you ask me, Luke.
Yeah. You could clearly say that, especially with all the business dealings with Ukraine, with China. It's absolutely absurd to see one political family dynasty that's been in political power for so long and enriched themselves through public service in so many different ways. Barack Obama even heavily criticized Joe Biden before as being the man of the special interest groups. And now this is the guy allegedly calling all the shots here. No, the special interest groups are calling all the shots here, especially when it comes to domestic policy, especially when it comes to foreign policy. And a lot of the maneuvers, a lot of the situations, a lot of the laws that are being passed right now, they're absolutely something that the Democrats can't even stand on. If you look at Joe Biden and his election pitch, his pitch is, I'm not Donald Trump. You got to stop Donald Trump. It's not, I did this. It's not, I helped this community. I was able to do this for these people. No, you don't hear any of that. The main kind of talking point that they're running with is Orange Man bad, I stop Orange Man. And the choice, the decisions that were left here, again, is just a repeat of the last presidential election. It's not really a good choice for a lot of Americans who are kind of sick and fed up with politics that now have to be inundated with it more than ever. AOC, again, represents this new kind of firebrand, and her standing behind Joe Biden just kind of highlights how the new guard is just as much in line as the old guard. As, of course, Nancy Pelosi kind of whipped her in shape and told her, you're going to be obedient. You're gonna worship the Democratic establishment state. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. I don't know what you think is going on here, Richard, but it's definitely kind of eye-opening to see someone promising to be an outsider that, of course, is just essentially reading the script like everyone else is.
Biden's interesting because there's a big marketing dollar in that anti-Trump vote, right? I think he proved that, and the people who put him in power, they proved that. That's why he's there. He's a useful tool in their shed. He's at the end of his lifetime. They're taking advantage of it in a variety of ways. But the Democratic Party, let's just go up a notch, right? Like, what is he a part of? He's the representative. He's the figurehead of the Democratic Party. Democratic Party was the traditional party of slavery. It was the party against people of color. And it was the abolitionist party in like 1859, the Republican Party, that was against slavery. And now they've turned it, right? And they turned it in the 60s a lot with LBJ. And they got people of color to think the Democrats represent them. And they'll fight to the death and, you know, all these sort of things. So abolitionism is kind of like, I see through a lens not of right and left politics. I see through a lens of freedom and slavery. So as a 21st century abolitionist, slavery in all its forms are wrong. People shouldn't be enslaving other people. We're all born into this place. So the ideas that are promulgated by Biden and everybody who defends that is ill in the first place. It's not about freedom. It's not about protecting your rights. They talk about democracy, which is two wolves and a sheep deciding on what's for dinner. That's not a constitutional republic. And every time that constitutional republic gets downgraded to democracy, there's a lot of ills that need to be unlearned. So it comes back to like our civic education and what type of system are we participating in and what type of rights are inherent to our human beingness. And then extrapolating that out to our leaders. And then you see how far off the path of what any individual could rightfully do. And then you have to stop kind of supporting and believing that system. Now, the question is, how do you get to the people who are still left empowering that system, educate them away from invalid ethics? You know, they mean well, but the outcomes from those actions aren't helping people at all.
And another person that essentially has been enslaved without their permission is, of course, Julian Assange. I don't know if you guys saw the latest Wall Street Journal article about him, but they are claiming that the United States is considering allegedly doing a plea deal with him and not extraditing him to the United States. As we have an article that reads, the Justice Department may allow him to, quote, plead guilty to a lesser charge of mishandling classified information as UK courts try to decide whether to allow him to appeal his extradition to the United States. As the story of what's happening to Julian Assange is truly a major story that implicates a lot of severe ramifications for the First Amendment, for freedom of the press, that is directly under attack with his prosecution. As of course, this man was falsely Me Too'd. This man was imprisoned in an Ecuadorian embassy. This man was thrown out of that embassy, dragged out and put into solitary confinement to the point where I believe it has damaged him in irreversible ways that there's no going back from. As of course, his health was absolutely deteriorated, absolutely destroyed by his imprisonment. And if you're not talking about Julian Assange and you're a part of the corporate media, you're one of the shills who, of course, doesn't care about freedom of the press. This guy's not even an American citizen, and the fact that he's facing charges, that the fact that he's being extradited to the United States when he's not even American himself, speaks a lot to this very specific story, as my friend Cassandra McDonald has a very interesting response to this story, as she says, quote, the Assange report is fake news. Julian Assange's U.S. Attorney Barry Pollock responded to the report by saying that as far as his office has seen, there's no indication that the government is easing up on its determination to seek his extradition. This is a wild story, a story that has lasted many different presidencies, but very interestingly, there was always a concerted effort to try to punish and attack Julian Assange for, of course, embarrassing the intel agencies here in the United States. What do you guys make of this particular story?
I hate Donald Trump because he had a chance. He could have helped his buddy out.
But how do you really feel?
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, I should be able to say that online. They love that kind of stuff. I hate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Oh, he sucks. No, seriously, he had a chance.
YouTube's like, promote him in the algorithm right now.
That's what I'm saying. I'm helping you out. No, he had the chance. He could have pardoned him. He didn't pardon him. He didn't pardon Ross. He didn't pardon Snowden. He didn't do anything useful. He pardoned Lil Wayne.
He pardoned Kodak Black.
Yeah, there you go.
Of course.
There you go.
Like a bunch of losers. So, you know, every time everybody talks about Trump being their Lord and Savior, before, you know, thinking about how hard he's fighting them, you gotta have a little bit of respect for his balls with that. But when it comes to this, he had no balls. So it's like, I'm never gonna be behind him as my freedom banner holder, because I just don't believe that he's actually behind anything of any substance. Assange basically helped him get elected, and he did nothing for him. And he talks about loyalty, blah, blah, blah. And it's just nonsense.
Well, it's not just that, but Assange was indicted under Trump's administration. It was Trump's administration and the people in the intel agencies that were put in by Trump that were the ones that literally carried him out of the Ecuadorian embassy and then charged them and are extraditing him. And if it wasn't for the people in Trump's administration, Julian Assange could still be hanging out in the Ecuadorian embassy. So it goes deeper than that. As of course, Donald Trump, you could say a lot of good things about him. You could say a lot of bad things about him. But let's be honest here with his record with the WikiLeaks. He came out and he said he loves the WikiLeaks, and then he came out and said, a couple months later, I don't even know who Julian Assange is. Which is an absolutely disappointing story because Julian Assange doesn't just represent WikiLeaks, he represents freedom of the press. He represents the First Amendment that absolutely is directly under attack. And if you don't care about him, you don't care about the First Amendment.
That's why we need to focus more on the VP. And I was telling a Kennedy supporter the other day who came up to me, I said, well, it'd be nice if Kennedy was his VP, because you have to put all things aside when you look at, okay, Trump has 4 more years, and you say you hate him. I agree.
No, I sometimes like him. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes
but
he's
you know what
all
I'm
right.
saying? I don't agree with him on certain views either and a lot of things, but I think if he chose, we have to look at who's the VP. He's only got 4 years. So if you got Tulsi, you got Kennedy. These are people I like. I like Vivek. These are 3 people I like right there. Then they have the chance to win 8 years, right? So even if you don't agree with him or don't disagree with him, I think the VP is the most important part of this cycle right now. Who's going to be the VP?
Unless they kill him in order to get that VP, which was always kind of a concern, right?
Air Force One is a Boeing, so they might just meet halfway.
But the
on
VP
that.
is
They have
something
great
we need
DEI efforts, okay? They have a great social credit score, so it's totally worth it, right?
And they let you bring screwdrivers on now, so you can be like part of the maintenance crew.
Exactly. But the VP, I think
that was another Babylon Bee article. Don't bring
understated.
screwdrivers on the airplane.
But don't you agree we're understated right now about who the VP? That's really an important topic because that's 4 years, and then the next 8 years is a possible that person may be the next president.
Yeah, a lot of people expect a lot of different things from Donald Trump this time around, and when you're let's just be honest here. Let's have a real conversation. When you're that old, you don't change. Older people never learn new skills. They never learn new talents. They never change their routines because they're set in their ways. That's just the way that a lot of older people kind of act. If you know people in their 70s or their 80s, you know that they don't deviate a lot from their planned routines. Donald Trump's presidency, if he gets elected, which I don't think he will, I think the Democrats have it in the bag. I think they have Arizona. I think they have Pennsylvania. I think they have Georgia. I think they're going to win just like they did in 2022.
That'd be horrible. That'd be horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I make this argument all the time. I'm not saying I want this to happen. I'm saying looking at the data, looking at the numbers, looking at how things are kind of shaping up here politically, especially when it comes to the budget, when it comes to the advertisements, when it comes to the larger attacks against him, I foresee the most shocking outcome being Joe Biden gets reelected. I do believe that's going to happen if things continue the way they are. Donald Trump, I think, is also sabotaging himself in some sort of ways that is not to...
Doubling down on the vax.
Well, we can't talk about that on YouTube.
But don't you
really
think?
But that's an issue that, of course, we'll discuss.
Job with that. I love that thing.
Don't you think Bobby Kennedy or Tulsi would bring in some of the liberal voters, though, to help him?
The insider scuttlebutt that I'm hearing from the people that I know, that he is kind of doubling down on that specific issue that Tatiana just brought up, and that he is looking for more kind of statist establishment, Mike Pence individuals to continue to be his vice president.
That's gross.
What's wrong with this guy?
Again, older people do the same things over and over again. So why would he deviate from what he did last time? I hope he does. I hope he picks someone who's anti-establishment. I hope he picks someone that the deep state kind of looks at, and when they take out, they're like, holy cow, that guy's more wild than Donald Trump. We can't not let Donald Trump step down because someone like RFK Jr. or someone like Vivek will come in and push the larger kind of Make America First agenda, which a lot of people resonate with because it's an agenda that does speak to the more kind of populist sentiments in America that have been betrayed by individuals like Bernie Sanders and other politicians that say that they represent the people, but they really don't. Trump, again, not perfect. Lots of things to criticize, just like the Julian Assange situation, just like the kind of larger medical experimentation situation. So it's going to be a crazy election year, but the way things are going, I see Biden winning.
Can Trump run if he doesn't get bailed out with that $500 million?
I think it's a civil fraud case, so I don't think it's criminal. So he might owe some money, but if he becomes president of the United States, I think he's also running because there's a lot at stake here. And it's not just Donald Trump. It's also the future of this country. And a lot of people see this election as an election that's going to dictate where this country goes. People see the Democrats winning and essentially codifying a situation where they will be in power forever. A lot of people see the Republicans winning and then standing in the way and helping the people out and helping America financially in a larger kind of economic ways that they desperately need help with. So this is going to be, I think, a lot closer of an election than a lot of people expect it to be.
We were talking before the show. I was asking Robbie how old he was because Trump got bailed out in like 1990, 1991. He went completely bankrupt. So he had all these casinos in New Jersey. He was a big high roller. And then he went bankrupt. And then he kind of had another rise to power. And in looking at that and trying to research, because once upon a time I asked a question like, how did he get back on the street? And there's a Bloomberg article. It's censored now for some reason. You have to go to archive.org. But it's called Donald's Trump Card from March of 1991. And in there on the second page, it says, even though Trump was bankrupt, his investors felt that his name still had street cred. So they wanted to leave it on the casinos. And the investment bank that made that decision was Rothschild and Company. Interestingly enough, the guy who gave Trump that deal, that bridge loan, his name was Wilbur Ross. And when Trump became president, Wilbur Ross became the first commerce secretary under Trump. Trump had a lot of debts to pay off, so he rotated these people in and out, like Rex Tillerson and whatnot, in state.
Sheldon Adelson also had a lot of important decisions to make in his administration, bringing in a lot of really awful people.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as that goes with the candidates, I think that's something that RFK Jr. and Vivek also have in common with Trump is strong alignment with AIPAC and Israel and approval thereof.
Who do the viewers want for VP? I'd love to see in the comments because I would love Vivek or Tulsi personally. I don't know who you guys would love, but
Tulsi is also a member of
CFR,
the Council on Foreign Relations. But overall, I think a lot of her policies are absolutely incredible, absolutely great. And I think the conversation that she provided us, especially during the Syrian war, was crucial to it not going the way that the Biden administration and the deep state wanted it to go. So I have a lot of respect for Tulsi and all the hard work that she's done in Congress, especially talking about issues that are difficult for her to talk about, especially as a Democrat, as she came out and has some very interesting arguments to make. I think she's a net positive. There's a lot of other people that are kind of in the background. There's a lot of establishment figures. There's a lot of anti-establishment figures. I think Trump absolutely needs to calculate a situation where it desperately needs to be an anti-establishment person, because if it's not, I think they're just going to, personally, in my opinion, kind of take him out or push him out of the way. And then, of course, have their establishment stooge in place that, of course, will be calling the shots in a way that, of course, doesn't interfere with a lot of the standard protocol that we usually see in Washington, D.C. I do see Donald Trump as a disruptor. I do see him as someone who kind of came in there. He was a bull in a china shop. He's shaking things up a little bit. But the fight with the CIA files was pretty eye-opening, highlighting a situation where there was bigger powers in Washington, D.C. that said, we don't care what the president of the United States says. We're just going to do what we want. You want those JFK files out? Nope. You want troops out of Syria? Nope. and people openly disobeyed him when he was president of the United States. He was supposed to be the guy calling all the shots. He wasn't even able to do that, which highlights the deep state situation that we've been talking about throughout this show. Robbie, you have something to say?
Then he becomes likable again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, you got to talk about Trump in an honest way. A lot of people, I think, make the mistake of absolutely hating him. despising him and just being absolutely filled with emotions and hate, which I think is absolutely incorrect. A lot of people love and adore him to the point where he can't do any wrong, and they don't want to ever criticize him, as of course I think that's also absolutely freaking wrong, because if you just worship him, if you don't try to make him be a vessel for the people, if you don't put political pressure on him, it's going to lead towards a situation where he's more likely to be hijacked by the kind of corporate consensus. He doesn't want to be
that, but you're wearing those $45,000 gold sneakers right now.
I wish we had some of those. They would be up on eBay immediately. Were they really $45,000? No.
Yeah, some of those people. Were
Okay,
were
some
paying-
of people, yeah. But I think originally they were like $1,000 bucks.
Well, they went up to like $5. I
Yeah.
didn't keep a close look, but I watched people pay exorbitant monies because I don't know, they're in the cultiness of it.
Isn't Trump?
There's Trump derangement syndrome, but there's also a Trump cult.
Yeah.
I think both are very negative, and I think you have to call the man respectively for who he is, and you have to be honest when it comes to these conversations. Now,
Luke,
yeah.
there's breaking news. I just found out that President or Donald Trump is born in the dog year, the year of the dog. And right now, according to GG33, so right now it's the dragon year, and this is the enemy sign of the dog. So if he's in his enemy sign right now, like this year is like everything bad for him. He's supposed to like lay low and so this kind of makes sense because I couldn't help it. I was like, what's this guy's Chinese zodiac? I've been doing this to everything around me recently, and I just found out he's literally the year of the dog, which means that right now the year of the dragon is the enemy sign of the dog, and bad things are going to happen to him. So this is really bad news. It's breaking news.
Steph has been watching a lot of GG33 videos. We're gonna get GG33 back on. He was on the show before. Check out the podcast episode where we had him on. It was pretty fascinating. It was a pretty interesting interview. I don't know if you guys subscribe to any of that stuff, but we could definitely talk about it on Rumble when it comes to people's personal kind of ideas and what they think is really going on here. As of course, we also have some super chats, some Rumble rants. We got one from Lucas Hard. Letter saying, what about Dr. Shiva? Get him on the show. Sure. Yeah. Dr. Shiva is welcome to come on the show.
He's running for president.
And yeah, absolutely. If they're in Miami, we do.
He's the creator of email.
Yeah. Is he really?
That's it. And everything that he ever touches.
Is he a good guy or a bad guy?
Well,
I kinda
I've
like
interviewed him.
It's all
I
right.
like him. He's very smart. He seems to be very free with accusations of other people and unkind things, ad hominem attacks, these sort of things. And there might be a time and place for that, but it just seemed like when I brought up Tucker in my interview with him, he's like, "Oh, Effer Carlson." I was like, "Whoa, bro, what's up?" You know. So yeah, I mean, I do. I pay attention to the message and not so much to the messenger.
Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of animosity in like alternative independent media, and I'm like, chill the hell out. We're losing. We're gonna end up in the gulags. Argue there. Like, stop arguing now. Okay? Like, they're literally arresting people for thought crimes. They're literally locking people up. They're going after lawyers. Okay? Anyone associated with Donald Trump, they're going after. They just went after a 5'1", 120-pound social influencer girl, Miss DeLuca, because there was a table passed around on January 6th that she so happened to place her hand on. For frick's sakes, this is not the time for your ego. This is not the time to be competitive. This is not the time to try to stomp everyone out. It's literally make or break when it comes to the future of this country, and you have a decision to make. You could focus on petty drama, you could focus on bullcrap, or you could focus on solutions. You could focus on educating people, working together. And I meet a lot of people in this industry, and I hang out with a lot of them, and I say, hey, life is short. Let's help each other out. Let's build. Let's grow. Let's move forward. Let's stop with this petty nonsense. The women, by the way, oh, they're so catty. My goodness. They will tear down each other like freaking, what's the expression here? Crabs in a bowl?
Crabs in a bucket.
Crabs in a
love.
freaking bucket. Stop it. You know better, women. Stop it with your nonsense and drama-fueled, crazed, emotional bitterness and hatred. Life is short. What you choose to surround yourself is absolutely critically important. And seriously, if we don't come together, things are not going to be good for this country. And again, I let a lot of my personal beefs, even with Alex Jones, go. I was just on his show later on today. We got to let it all go. It's a dire situation for this country, and this is why we really got to come together more than ever. We got another Rumble rant by Sick Cant, who says, that plus-sized Gruba Kurva needs to lose some weight. Hey, don't speak about Clint's girlfriend like that, okay? She has feelings, she has emotions, and she's just a plump-sized, hefty woman that we have to respect her full plus-sized independence on, okay? All right? Be
Proud
nice.
of you, Clint.
Be nice. Clint's going to be on Timcast in about an hour from now. People are asking, where's Clint? Clint's going to be with us this Friday as we have a very special show available for you guys with Ed Clay that we're going to be shooting from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern this Friday with Ed Clay and Clint Russell in studio later on this week. We got a lot of really awesome people coming in studio. Carrie Lake, Roger Stone, you name it. We're going to have them here. We have guests booked up for the next 2 months. So we're going to be doing a lot of really incredible things here on thebestpoliticalshow.com, and we definitely appreciate all of your support. We're going to be going to callers in about 30 minutes. You want to be a caller, sign up to lukeunfiltered.com as we, of course, make an official transition away from this technocratic gulag platform into brighter pastures, into a free speech platform that allows us to speak freely without any kind of censorship. Before we go over there, Richard, as we leave our YouTube audience, where can people find you?
Every Sunday night, I host the Grand Theft World podcast. It's at grandtheftworld.com. We usually get kicked off YouTube pretty quick, but we're on Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute and Rockfin and all those good places. And if you're interested in outgrowing the status quo and you want to get some skills to help pay the bills, check out getautonomy.info. And when we get to Rumble, I brought a special gift for Luke and the studio. It's a historical artifact. You're going to want to see it, but we can't show it on YouTube because reasons.
Yeah, you gifted me an incredible book last time that I really, really definitely appreciate. We have it here, actually.
You should keep it in the safe.
And yeah, no, absolutely. I've known Richard for a very long time, and it's great to have you here. It's awesome. I know Tatiana, too, for a very long time, too. Tatiana, where can people find you and support your work?
Great. So people can check out my songs. They're online everywhere, Spotify and all those other places. TatianaMoroz.com. My Twitter is Queen Tatiana. And thanks for hanging out with us, guys. See you on Rumble.
You should do some tunes with Toby Turner. He's over here, too.
I'm happy to do tunes.
We had a minor mishap last night with him. You could check that video out on twitter.com/wearechange. Luke, we are change. Robbie.
I think it's all about unconditional love.
You dirty hippie.
I think you should find a stranger, give them a hug. Best advice: turn off the news. Turn off the news and love thy neighbor. I think we can all agree on that. I'm looking forward to the next hour. I want to talk about QAnon being a psyop. I want to talk about, I want to talk earlier about Trump and seeing the JFK film. I mean, he didn't release it. What did he see? If you want to see me on Twitter, it's the Robbie Man, and Instagram is ROBBIEMANN. I love you all. Looking forward to you guys coming to the next segment.
Steph, you talk way too much.
Trump, the dragons are coming. Beware. Steph, we are change on Instagram. Steph WRC on X.
That is a very interesting observation you made as well. We'll talk about that, plus a lot more, plus Nickelodeon, plus the Daily Mail telling you that sun is bad for you. All of that right now on Rumble.com. They have us on the front page. So if you want to find us, all you have to do is either go to rumble.com or just rumble.com/wearechange. Again, just go to rumble.com and scroll down. We are in the picks category here next to a lot of really awesome people, and we are second in line. So